Hello everyone, I am the Midnight Echoes, and I am here to help you today. I know you use this video to fall asleep, so before that, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Also, where are you from, and what time are you watching now? Get comfortable, relax, let's begin. The first giggle froze me in place. I remember the exact time, 11:47 p.m., a late Tuesday night. I hadn't left my chair in 3 hours, caught in the grind of end-of-quarter reports. The sound was sharp, quick, high-pitched, like someone trying not to laugh out loud. It echoed through the empty office, soft but piercing. My fingers paused mid-keystroke. I work on the 14th floor of the Riverside Corporate Center. After 7 p.m., I'm the only person with access. The cleaning crew leaves at 6, security does their rounds at 8, and then it's just me and the whisper of the HVAC system. I like it that way. Solitude sharpens my focus. No meetings, no interruptions, just the hum of the machines and my own breathing. Another laugh, louder this time. A woman's voice, definitely, coming from the conference room. My shoulders tightened. I could feel my heart thudding just a little too fast. I rolled my chair back slowly, careful not to let the wheels squeak too much on the carpet. The door to the conference room was shut, as it had been all day. I hadn't stepped foot in there. There had been no meetings, just me and a mountain of spreadsheets since 8 in the morning. The blinds on the glass were closed, hiding the room completely. Then came a soft thud, and something that sounded like whispering. I stood up, slowly. My legs felt shaky. I grabbed my phone off the desk and checked for messages. Nothing. No calls, no alerts, just the blank screen. I opened the access logs. Old habit. Ever since I was promoted to senior manager, I'd check the logs compulsively. No one else had come to the 14th floor since the cleaners left. Then another thud, sharper, followed by what sounded like furniture being dragged, no longer a trick of the imagination. There were people in that room, but that couldn't be. I'm the only one with a working key card after hours, and I'd been sitting just 20 feet from that door for 15 hours. I stepped closer. The motion-activated lights in the hallway flickered on overhead. A harsh white glow bathed everything. Too sterile, too cold. The whispers behind the door grew clearer, muffled words I couldn't make out. I leaned in, pressing my ear against the cold metal surface. A woman's voice, sharp, unfamiliar. Then a man's voice, followed by that same giggle. My hand reached for the doorknob. I knew it would be locked. I always locked it when the cleaners left, just like I did every night. The handle turned. Click. It wasn't locked. I yanked my hand back like I'd touched fire. The handle had been ice cold, too cold. I started breathing faster, my forehead slick with sweat, even though the air conditioning had kept the office nearly frigid. Inside, the noises resumed, scraping, dragging, rhythmic tapping. My instincts screamed, call security, but I couldn't even unlock my phone. My fingers kept slipping, the giggling stopped, the silence that followed felt heavy, pressing in. Then, 3 knocks, sharp, precise, right on the other side of the door. I stumbled backward. My phone fell to the floor. Another knock, more forceful, and the handle began to turn again, slowly, deliberately. I ran, no shame, No hesitation, I grabbed my laptop bag and bolted for the emergency stairwell. Behind me, I heard the door to the conference room swing open with force. It slammed against the wall. I didn't look back. I knew better, but I did, just once. The room was dark, lights off, but shadows moved inside. Too many, flowing out like smoke, but not smoke. Wrong. They moved upward, across the ceiling, as if gravity no longer applied. I took the stairs 3 at a time, nearly lost my balance. Didn't care. I didn't stop until I hit the lobby. The night security guard glanced up from his crossword, startled. "Everything okay, Mr. Matthews?" I couldn't speak. I just pointed toward the ceiling, gasping. He called for backup. 3 guards rushed up to the 14th floor. I waited in the lobby, drinking water from the cooler, hands still shaking. They found nothing. Of course, the conference room was empty, chairs perfectly arranged, no signs of disturbance, no evidence that anyone had been there. They checked the footage, no entries, no exits. The floor had remained untouched since the cleaning crew. They said I was overworked, sleep deprived, that maybe the building had been settling, creaking. I nodded, agreed, said the usual things, but I knew what I heard, what I saw. I called in sick the next morning, first time in 3 years. I spent hours researching the building's history. Nothing. No accidents, no hauntings, no weird legends. 2 days later, I requested a transfer to the downtown office. My boss was surprised. The 14th floor was prime space, symbolic, prestigious. I told him I needed a change. He agreed, reluctantly, but I still had projects to finish, so I had to go back. I made sure to schedule meetings during daylight hours, kept myself surrounded by people. The conference room door stayed shut, but sometimes, when I walked past, I heard things. A scratch, a whisper, the kind of sound that makes you freeze mid-step, heart thudding in your chest. But I never opened it again. Never after sunset. The reports could wait. A month passed. I was finally settled into the new downtown office. Corner window, skyline view. It should have felt like a promotion, but I still found myself glancing over my shoulder when the sun dipped below the horizon. That's when the email came. Building management at Riverside. They were beginning renovations on the 14th floor. A full gut job. Even the conference room was being torn out. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then my phone rang. My old boss. His voice sounded strained, tight, like he was forcing calm. "Have you heard what they found when they started tearing down the conference room?" "No," I said, trying to sound casual. But my grip on the phone tightened. What did they find? A door. The word dropped into my chest like a stone. A sealed door, hidden behind drywall, looked like it hadn't been opened in decades. No handle, just bolted shut from the outside. And when they finally got it open, he paused. I could hear his breathing. "It didn't go anywhere," he said. It opened straight into the exterior wall. No room, no crawl space, just blank concrete. I thanked him, hung up before he could say anything else, and turned my phone off. Then I closed my laptop, and I sat there, watching the sunset reflect off the buildings that weren't Riverside. That night, I barely slept. And when I did, I dreamed of the laughter. That strange, rising laughter that started as human, then twisted into something else entirely. A sound made not with vocal cords, but with wet, impossible throats. I don't work late anymore, not ever. When the sky starts to dim, I pack up. The quarterly reports can wait. The emails can pile up. I've made peace with lower productivity ratings. Some things are more important, like staying alive or staying out. Last week, I bumped into one of the security guards from that night. He works a different building now. He looked older, tired. He recognized me instantly. Still pulling those late nights, Mr. Matthews? I shook my head. He gave a slow nod. Smart man. He hesitated. You know, we never told you what we really found that night. I felt a chill in my chest. What do you mean? He glanced around, then leaned in. His voice dropped to a whisper. The conference room was empty. Yeah, but the chairs, all the chairs, they were warm. Like someone had just been sitting in them. My mouth went dry, and on the whiteboard, he trailed off, rubbed his face with one trembling hand. What was on the whiteboard? His eyes met mine. For a moment, he looked like he might lie. Then he said quietly, fingerprints, dozens of them, smeared all over, but they weren't right. What do you mean? The patterns, the whirls, our tech ran them. No matches, but he took a breath. She said they didn't look human, said she'd never seen anything like them. I thanked him and walked away, quickly, trying not to run. That night, the dreams returned, the turning of the handle, the shapes in the dark. That laughter, worse than any scream. I woke at 3 o'clock a.m., heart pounding, drenched in sweat. My apartment was silent, but in the stillness I heard it, faint, just barely. The scrape of furniture and giggling, muffled, distant. I turned on every light. No one was there. It was in my memory. Just memory, at least. That's what I keep telling myself. Yesterday, I saw the notice in the paper, Riverside Corporate Center is being torn down. Structural issues, the article said. Foundation unstable. They're starting from the top floors, working their way down. I wonder if they'll find more doors, more walls hiding things that should have stayed buried. I won't be watching to find out. I've accepted a job in another city, far from Riverside, far from the 14th floor. My new office is all glass and steel, bright and modern. No hidden corners, no sealed spaces. Still, I leave before dark, every day. Some habits are worth keeping, some warnings are meant to be followed, and sometimes, when the room gets too quiet, when the lights flicker just a little, I catch myself listening for laughter, for scraping sounds, for knocks on doors that should be locked, but mostly, I try not to think about that night, not about what I heard or what I saw, and especially not what might have happened if I'd stayed. Just a few seconds longer. Some doors should never open. Some rooms, like that one on the 14th floor, are better left undisturbed, no matter what sounds come from behind them. Because sometimes, late at night, when you think you're alone, you're not. You're never really alone. Not in places like that. I know that now. So, Tomesa. The first thud came at 2:47 a.m. I remember checking the time. I was half awake, convinced it was just the neighbors, until I remembered there weren't any. This building was new. Only a few tenants had moved in, and I was the only one on the 7th floor. Another thud, then shuffling, soft footsteps in the hallway, dragging, slow, like someone barely lifting their feet from the carpet. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was wrong, artificial, the kind of silence that waits for something to fill it. I set my laptop aside, stood up, barefoot. The footsteps continued, uneven, deliberate, then the voices, muffled, human, at least 2 of them. They spoke in hushed, sharp tones, urgent, close. I moved toward the door, pressed my ear to it. The voices grew clearer. A man and a woman, agitated, arguing in low bursts of sound I couldn't quite make out. I hovered there, hand inches from the doorknob. I'm not the type to go poking around strange sounds in the night, but this was my floor, my home, and I had a right to know. I opened the door, just a crack. The hallway lights were on, their usual dim nighttime setting. Everything looked normal, empty, still, too empty. I opened the door wider. The hallway stretched in both directions, identical doors lining the walls. The building was too new for character. Everything smelled like fresh paint and polished metal, but the elevator, it caught my eye immediately. The digital display was flickering, floor numbers jumping erratically. 4, 11, 2, back to 7. Then it stopped. My floor, but the backlight pulsed unnaturally. A sickly, flickering blue. I took a step closer. My feet made no sound on the plush carpet, but the air, it was colder, noticeably colder than my apartment. That shouldn't happen in a modern, climate-controlled building, 10 feet from the elevator now. That's when I heard it, scratch. A soft sound from behind the elevator doors. Not mechanical, organic, fingernails, dragging across metal. I froze. The display blinked again, then went completely dark. The scratching stopped, only silence, then a thump, heavy. From inside the elevator, the metal doors vibrated slightly. "Hello?" I called out, instant regret. My voice shattered the silence. Too loud, too human. The scratching resumed, louder, more frantic. The doors bulged just slightly, but unmistakably, as if something on the other side was pressing against them. I moved closer. The seam between the doors wasn't flush anymore. It was widening. A thin line of darkness appeared. "Is someone in there?" I asked. "I can call for help." Then, a hand shot through the gap, pale, dirty, broken nails. It clawed at the air, desperate. Then another hand, and another. Fingers hooked around the door, trying to pry it open. Metal groaned. I stumbled backward. The screech of steel being forced apart echoed through the hall. Faces pressed against the opening, but not right. Too many teeth, eyes too far apart, mouths gaping too wide. I ran. My hands shook so badly I could barely fit the key in my lock. Behind me, the thud of bodies hitting the carpet, the shuffle of footsteps, dragging, slapping, wrong. The hallway lights flickered rapidly now, on, off, on, off. I slammed the door behind me, turned both locks, backed away. Silence, then scraping, nails against wood, the woman's voice again, distorted, like a voice slowed down on a broken tape recorder. "Let us in," she whispered. "We lived here first." I backed farther into the apartment. That didn't make sense. This building was brand new. Before construction, It was just an empty lot. No previous tenants. No one could have lived here. I turned to the window. 7 floors up. Impossible for anyone to be outside. But there they were, hands pressed against the glass, smearing it with dirt and grease, faces behind them, distorted, too wide, smiling like masks. I grabbed my phone. No signal, Wi-Fi was down, data was dead. The temperature dropped. Suddenly, I could see my breath fogging in the air. The scratching grew louder, now at both the door and the windows. Then came other sounds, wet sounds, slapping, oozing, dragging things, unidentifiable and unforgettable. We died here first, the woman said again. Right outside the door, I ran to my desk. My laptop was still open. The building's website was still loaded. I scrolled fast, panicked. Then I found it, small print near the bottom of the page. This property was previously the site of the former Westbrook Apartments, demolished in 1986 following a structural collapse. 27 residents lost. A crack appeared in my window. A web of broken glass spread from where a hand pressed 2 hands against it. The hinges on the front door creaked, straining. Something was pushing against it, hard. I bolted for the bedroom, slammed the door, locked it. The temperature dropped again, another 20 degrees in minutes. The outer door gave way with a crash. I heard them enter, flesh hitting furniture, feet dragging, whispers, "Our home, give it back. We died here." I looked around, no escape. The bedroom door shuddered. A loud crack splintered through it. Then I saw them, through the gaps in the wood. Faces, hands, too many limbs, all twisted, all wrong. The door burst open, and they filled the doorway, a single seething mass, like they were still trying to squeeze themselves into that elevator car. The woman stepped forward, her head cocked at an impossible angle. When she smiled, her jaw unhinged, too wide. "Welcome home," she said, and reached for me. The cold stung my lungs, burned with every breath. She touched my shoulder, her hand like wet cement, too heavy, too real. "Stay with us," she whispered, "forever." I shut my eyes, and suddenly, sunlight streaming through the blinds. I was seated at my desk, my laptop screen big in front of me. My phone said 8:15 a.m. Had I dreamed it? The cracked window was fine, the door still locked, the furniture undisturbed, but the air was still cold, colder than it should have been, and on my shoulder, bruises, 5 of them, distinct, shaped like fingers, pressed deep into the skin, faint gray, like dried concrete. I moved out that day, left almost everything behind. No arguments from management. They processed my lease cancellation in record time. Didn't even ask why. They already knew. A month later, I drove past the building. All the windows were dark. Another luxury apartments now leasing sign hung from the front. But I knew it was still empty, unloved, unwanted, waiting. At a red light, I looked up to my old unit, 7th floor, and there, in the window, a pale face pressed to the glass, too wide of a smile. Then the light changed. I drove away. Didn't look back, but that night, and every night since, I've heard them. The voices, in my head, in my dreams, in the silence of elevators and stairwells. When I step inside and press the button, I stare at the floor numbers, waiting, hoping that they don't flicker, because sometimes they do, sometimes they change mid-ride, sometimes they stop at floors that don't exist, and sometimes I feel that same pressure in the air, that same static hum, like something is climbing upward, rising again. I don't talk about it anymore. People think I'm crazy. Even I start to doubt myself sometimes. But then I see a handprint on glass, or smell that floral perfume, or hear laughter when I'm alone. And I remember, it wasn't just a dream. It was a warning. There are places where the dead don't rest, where they refuse to, places they claim and keep. Even if the concrete's new, even if the drywall's fresh, the ground remembers, and it calls them back. So the next time you move into a shiny new apartment with freshly painted walls and spotless floors, listen, just listen. At 2:47 a.m., when everything is still, when the hallway is too quiet, when your building's empty, but someone is knocking on your door, don't open it. And whatever you do, don't take the elevator. I should have said no, but routine is a strange comfort. I'd inspected foreclosed properties for 15 years, and the house at 2847 Maple Street was supposed to be just another one. Same old checklist. Unlock the door, walk the rooms, photograph the damage, close everything back up. Same creaky floors, same stale air, and yet, 3 weeks later, I'm still replaying everything in my head, still questioning what I saw, what I smelled, what I felt. The first visit was ordinary, a mid-60s ranch-style home, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. The kitchen was outdated, smelled musty from being closed up. No power, no surprises. I walked through, snapping photos with my tablet. All the blinds were raised to let in light, just like I always do. All switches were flipped down. Standard. 45 minutes later, I was back in my car, filing the report. Easy money. 4 weeks later, the second inspection. I stepped inside, and something was different. The air smelled sweet, faint, but sharp, floral, like perfume, not overpowering, just enough to make the hairs rise on the back of my neck. I shrugged it off. Maybe the bank had shown the place to a potential buyer. Maybe someone wore it, but when I checked the lockbox history, only one recorded entry, mine. The house was supposed to be empty. In the living room, I noticed the blinds, all lowered, but I had definitely left them up. I made a note, probably a mistake, right? Except, in the kitchen, the light switch near the door was flipped up. I froze. I always leave them off. It's second nature, safety protocol, instinct. I walked the house. One by one, I checked them. Dining room, up. Hall, up. Master bedroom, up. Garage, up. 4 more switches. My pulse quickened. I documented every one, photographed each room, made sure to flip everything down, raise all the blinds again, and snap photos before I left. 2 weeks passed. I had to return for another report. A buyer was interested. When I unlocked the door, the smell hit me like a memory. Floral, familiar, stronger now, like someone had sprayed it in every room. Jasmine, maybe, or gardenia. I called out, "Hello?" No answer. I stepped deeper inside. All the blinds lowered again, every single one. The light switches, 12 were flipped up. 12. I'd documented it all just 14 days ago. I called a colleague, Mike, asked him to join me for the next visit. He laughed it off. Ghosts, huh? But he agreed to tag along. I didn't tell him everything, just enough. That night, at home, I opened the photos from the last inspection. Switches off, blinds raised. I wasn't losing my mind. Then, that smell, a sudden whiff, floral. But I was home, alone. No flowers, no scented candles. I turned slowly. Nothing there, just my imagination. Had to be, right? The next morning was gray and cold. Mike met me in the parking lot, cheerful as ever. Ready to go ghost hunting? He joked. I didn't laugh. We arrived at Maple Street 20 minutes later. The house looked unchanged, quiet, ordinary. That was the problem. Mike noticed the smell immediately. Perfume? He asked, sniffing the air. Weird. We moved through the house, every blind, down, 12 switches, up. Mike raised an eyebrow. Okay, that's strange. Inconsistent with previous inspections, I said, trying to keep my voice professional. In the master bathroom, I'd found water on the counter last time. Today, dry, but there was a perfect circle in the dust, like something had just been there. A clean ring where nothing should be. Mike's voice dropped. Someone's been here, but the lockbox log, still no entries but mine. Then, click. We both froze. What was that? Mike whispered. Sounded like a light switch, I said. We stepped into the hall. The switch near the bedroom was flipped up, but we just checked it. It was down. Mike looked pale. Okay, that's not normal. Another click from the kitchen. We ran. The switch by the back door, up. Then, before our eyes, it flipped down by itself. Mike breathed out slowly. What the hell? Then came the footsteps, soft, padded, on carpet, across the living room. We spun. No one. Just that perfume, suffocating now. The footsteps reached the front door and stopped. We need to go, I said. Mike didn't argue. We moved quickly, not running, just fast enough. I reached for the doorknob. Click. It locked, tight. Mike stepped forward. Use your key. I fumbled for it, twisted it. Nothing. It wouldn't turn, like something on the other side was holding it shut. The footsteps resumed, coming back towards us. From the living room, a light switch flipped again, then another. Click, click, click. Mike slammed into the door. Twice, 3 times. Crack. The door burst open. We stumbled out into the freezing morning air, gasping. Behind us, slam. The storm door shut hard. We turned to look back. Through the front window, the living room switch flipped down. Mike said nothing for a long time. Then, I guess I owe you an apology. I laughed, shaky, unsteady. Let's get out of here. The ride back to the office was quiet. Neither of us spoke for a long time. Mike just stared out the passenger window, knuckles white around his coffee. I was trying to stay calm, trying to focus, but I kept hearing those clicks, feeling that perfume in my lungs. Eventually, Mike broke the silence. We still need to file the inspection report. I nodded. Put down the truth, all of it. They'll think we're insane. Maybe, I said, but we've got 2 witnesses, photos, timestamps. Let the bank figure it out. He hesitated, then pulled out his tablet and started typing. A minute later, he paused again. That smell, the perfume, it reminded me of something. I looked over. You said that before. Yeah, so I looked up the previous owner before we left. He scrolled for a second, then turned the screen toward me. Margaret Wilson, widowed, lived there for over 20 years. I skimmed the details, died in the master bedroom, alone. Mike tapped the screen. Estate sale listed vintage jasmine perfumes among her belongings. I stared at the screen. Suddenly, that floral scent was back in my memory again, thicker than air, clinging to the walls. We returned to the office, filed the report, did our best to sound rational, professional. I didn't care how it read. I just wanted to be done. Later that night, I sat in my home office again, reviewing the photos, zooming in, clicking through the hallway, the living room, the master bedroom. Then I saw it, in one corner of the living room shot. A blur, faint, almost human. I leaned closer, not quite a shape, not quite a shadow, but something. I blinked, gone. Just the edge of a curtain? Maybe, maybe not. I closed the laptop, tried to focus on something else, anything else. But the scent returned, jasmine, so subtle, then stronger. I stood up, looked around. No candles, no diffusers, nothing. The smell was just there, hovering in the room. I moved through the apartment, lights on in every room, nothing, empty. I sat back down, tried to work, but my eyes kept drifting to the photo again. That blur, the outline of something watching, something close. Mike texted the next morning. Got a call from the bank. They're removing us from the Maple Street property, sending it to a different agent. I replied, good. I didn't want to step foot in that house again, ever. That night, I left the office late, tired, drained. As I walked to my car, I saw something from the corner of my eye. A raised blind, just a few inches, just enough to peek out from a dark window of a building across the street. I turned quickly. Nothing. The blind was back down, lights off. Maybe it wasn't real. Maybe it was just a trick of the eye. But maybe not. I thought that would be the end of it. I really did. But strange things have a way of clinging, especially when they're unfinished, especially when something's still there, still waiting. A few days later, I found a note on my desk, typed, no name, just a question. Did you tell her goodbye? I asked everyone in the office. No one had left it. No one admitted to seeing it. That night, as I walked out, I paused by the elevator. The floor numbers flickered, then settled on 7. A chill ran down my spine. The doors opened, empty, silent. I didn't step inside. I took the stairs. That's the thing about hauntings. They don't always stay where they start. Sometimes they follow you home. Sometimes they linger in scent and memory. Sometimes they come through the switches, the blinds, the door you should have locked. Sometimes they never left at all. If you ever find yourself inspecting a house where the perfume is too strong, the switches won't stay off, and the blinds move on their own, do one thing, say goodbye, and mean it, because if you don't, they might still be there, smiling behind the curtains, waiting for you to come back. It was supposed to be a break, a way to clear my head. 3 nights under the stars, no cell reception, no buzzing fluorescence, no haunted houses, creaking doors, or flickering elevator displays. Just trees, silence, and peace, or so I thought. Black Rock State Forest had been my favorite camping spot as a teenager. Isolated, quiet, miles from any town. When I pulled into the gravel lot that morning, the air was crisp and clean. Birds chirped. Wind moved through the treetops like an old song. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe again. The first day passed like a dream. I set up my tent at Site 12, nestled at the edge of a long clearing, cooked a quiet dinner over the fire, watched the sky burn into orange and purple. I even laughed when the coyotes howled in the distance. But that night, just before sleep took me, I heard something else. Not at animals, not at insects, something heavier, movement, footsteps through the underbrush. I froze in my sleeping bag, held my breath. Branches snapped, then stopped. Right outside the tent, I reached for my flashlight, flicked it on. Silence, no shadow, no sound, just the faint rustle of leaves in the distance. Eventually, I convinced myself it was a deer, a raccoon maybe, just the forest being the forest. I fell asleep to the wind brushing against nylon. The next morning, I found the footprints. Human, bare, pressed deep into the dirt, just a few feet from my tent. They circled once, then vanished into the woods. I stood staring at them for a long time. They weren't mine. I always wore boots outside, and these, they were small, delicate, like a woman's. But I was alone. At least, I thought I was. That day, I hiked deep into the forest, followed old trails I remembered from years ago, carved my initials into a birch tree, just like I did when I was 16. Everything felt normal again. When I got back to camp, the fire pit had been cleared perfectly. Ash swept aside, rocks stacked neatly. I hadn't done that. Someone had been there while I was gone, but nothing was missing. No signs of damage, just cleaned. I checked my car, still locked, no signs of forced entry, but the passenger door handle had a smudge, like someone with dirty fingers had gripped it. I wiped it clean, sat inside, waited, listened, nothing, just wind, just forest. That night, I kept the fire going longer, way longer. The woods were too quiet. No owls, no crickets, no coyotes. Just silence, the kind of silence that pressed in on your skin. At 2:12 a.m., the fire flickered, hard, like a wind had passed through. But the air was still, no breeze, no movement. Then, a voice, soft, right behind me. You came back. I spun, flashlight in hand. Nothing. But my sleeping bag was unzipped, and the zipper had been pulled all the way down. I hadn't touched it, didn't even use it earlier, just laid on top. Something had. I didn't sleep, just sat by the fire until morning came. As soon as the sun touched the tips of the trees, I packed, fast, tossed gear into the trunk, ripped up tent stakes, didn't care about folding anything, just needed to leave, but the trail back to the lot was wrong, longer, twisted. I passed the same fallen tree 3 times, the same patch of mushrooms, the same white rock with the moss ring. My compass spun aimlessly, my GPS dead. Eventually, I stopped walking, closed my eyes, listened, and that's when I heard it. A child's laughter, faint, from ahead. I opened my eyes. There she stood, on the trail, in a white dress tattered and stained with dirt. Hair matted, face pale, she tilted her head, smiled, then stepped backward into the trees, gone. I didn't follow, just stood still, heart pounding, hands shaking. Then I walked straight, no turns, no detours, just forward. Eventually, the forest opened and there was the gravel lot. My car, safe, untouched. I didn't waste a second. I threw everything inside and sped down the mountain road without looking back. Later, at home, I researched. No missing girls, no unsolved murders, but one old report caught my eye. A ranger's log. Unusual activity reported around campsite 12. Multiple hikers described sounds of crying or laughter in the night. Claims of a barefoot girl appearing briefly near tents, then vanishing. No evidence found. It ended with a note. Area now considered unstable. Campsite 12 closed indefinitely. But I'd made the reservation online. No closures listed. Someone had reopened the site, or something wanted it reopened. Even now, I find dirt in my shoes that shouldn't be there. Smell pine and ash where there shouldn't be any. And sometimes, when I wake in the dark, I feel the sleeping bag zipper brush my leg, moving just a little, and outside my bedroom window, pressed against the glass, tiny bare footprints facing inward. I didn't hear my phone ring. It was 3:17 a.m., the time when most things are quiet, except your thoughts and the parts of the world that aren't supposed to be awake. I woke up suddenly, drenched in sweat, heart racing like I'd been running through a storm. The phone buzzed once more. Voicemail. No call history. No missed call. Just a new voicemail notification. I reached for it. The screen glowed softly in the dark. The number read 0000, 0000, 0000. Voicemail, 1 minute, 12 seconds. I sat up slowly, listened. The recording was wrong. It didn't start with static. No breathing, no noise at all. Just silence. Then, a knock, loud, 3 times. Knock, knock, knock. Then footsteps, crisp, measured, coming closer. I paused the recording, looked around. No one, of course, but the air felt thick now, like a storm waiting to break. I hit play again. After the footsteps, a voice, faint, raspy, male, answer the door. Another silence, then he spoke again, closer, please. I recognized the voice. It was mine. But I hadn't recorded this. I hadn't said those words. I played it back 3 times. Same voice, same begging tone. Please let me in. Then something else. A second voice layered underneath mine. A whisper. Female, not speaking to me, but about me. He's almost ready. I deleted the voicemail immediately. Tried to clear my call logs, but there were no logs to clear. No record of a call ever being received. Just the message, now gone. I stared at the screen until it dimmed out. Then I turned every light on in the apartment, checked every lock, every window. The air outside my door was still, but somehow too still. The next morning, I called the phone company, gave them the time, the number. The operator paused. Sir, that number's not possible. It's unassigned. I know, but I got a voicemail. From an unassigned line? Yes. She paused again. I'll make a note, she said softly, almost like she didn't want to continue. I hung up. Days passed. Then a second voicemail came. Same time. 3:17 a.m. No ringtone. Just a new message from nowhere. This time, the voice was all mine, but it wasn't begging. It was screaming, horrified, broken, screaming until my voice cracked and turned raw. Then, a door slamming, the sound of dragging and breathing, not mine, wet, guttural, too close. I threw the phone against the wall. It shattered, but the message was still there, still playing from the speaker until it ended on 3 words: beyond you now. I didn't turn around, not right away. Eventually I stood, alone, shaking. There was nothing in the room, but I knew something had been there. Something had leaned in, close enough to whisper, but chose not to. Not yet. I changed my number, changed providers, bought a new phone, set it up under a new name, did everything right, but the next week, another voicemail, same time, different voice, a child. She said, "You shouldn't have deleted me." Then silence, no noise, no static, just quiet, until the click of a doorknob turning, mine. I don't sleep much anymore. I keep the phone in a drawer, battery removed, screen cracked, but sometimes, around 3:17, it buzzes. No power, no connection. It vibrates, once, twice, then silence, always silence. And that smell, that same jasmine perfume, carried on cold air, filling the corners of every room I walk into. If your phone ever rings after 3 a.m. and there's no number, no missed call, just a voicemail, don't play it, don't listen, and whatever you do, don't answer, because you might hear your own voice begging from the other side, and something else just behind it, listening, waiting, smiling. It was just past midnight when I saw him for the first time. I was out for a walk, couldn't sleep, my head too full, my heart beating to a rhythm I couldn't calm. The neighborhood was quiet. Street lamps buzzed faintly, casting golden pools across the pavement. Fog had rolled in, not thick, but enough to blur edges, enough to make everything feel softer, quieter, until I saw him standing beneath a lamp 2 blocks ahead, perfectly still, too still. His shape was long, lean, coat hanging from his frame like it was made of shadow, no movement, no breathing, just watching. At first, I thought he was waiting for a cab, or maybe someone in one of the houses, but he never moved, and as I got closer, I noticed something that made my chest go cold. The fog stopped right around him, like a circle had been carved in the mist, and he was standing at the center of it, unreachable, untouchable. I slowed down, crossed to the other side of the street, pretended to be looking at my phone. When I glanced up again, he was gone, not faded, not walked away, just gone, like the fog had swallowed him whole. I went home, told myself I imagined it, but that night, I dreamed of the lamp, the fog, and the man standing there, only now, he was closer. The next evening I went out again, same route, same time. I needed to prove it was nothing, just my mind playing tricks. The fog rolled in again, just like before, and there he was, beneath the same street lamp, still, silent, only this time, he turned his head, slowly, deliberately, toward me. I couldn't see his face. It was blurred, like something pixelated in real life. like a memory out of focus, but I felt his gaze, deep, heavy, rooted in something ancient. He raised his hand, not in greeting, but in acknowledgement, as if to say, "I see you now." I didn't go for a walk the next night, or the one after that. I kept the blinds shut, double-checked the locks. Still, at 12:17 a.m., the lights outside my window flickered. When I looked through the slit in the curtain, the street lamp across from my house buzzed, and beneath it, he stood, closer now, watching, waiting. No fog this time, just him, lit in that sickly yellow glow, unmoving. And when I looked again, his head tilted to the side, just a little, just enough to make my skin crawl. I stopped leaving the house at night, unplugged the clocks, turned off every light before sunset, but it didn't help. He kept coming back, always under a street lamp, always at 12:17, no earlier, no later, sometimes across the street, sometimes in the alley, once. Right outside my front door, his shadow stretched across my porch like spilled oil, and then, slowly, he knocked 3 times. Knock, 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 then silence. I didn't answer. I never do, but I always listen, because he never leaves right away. He lingers, just long enough for you to wonder, what if I had opened the door? I tried researching him. Nothing useful, just old stories, urban legends, a few whispers in forgotten forums, the watcher in the fog, the lamplight man, the 17-minute stranger. They all said the same thing. He appears under street lamps, in fog, after midnight. Once he sees you, he returns, again and again, closer each time, until you invite him in. I live alone now, rarely go outside. The streetlight across from my house flickers every night, even if the rest of the city is calm, even if the sky is clear. And when I hear the knock, those slow, patient knocks, I sit in the dark, hold my breath, wait, because I know the moment I answer is the moment I become the next figure under the lamp, waiting for someone else to walk into the fog. If you ever find yourself outside just past midnight with fog curling at your feet and street lamps flickering ahead, don't stop, don't stare, and whatever you do, don't acknowledge the man beneath the light, because once he sees you, he never forgets. She was 12 when she died. That's what the newspaper said. A single paragraph tucked between ads and weather updates. Local girl drowns in Hollow Pine Lake. No foul play suspected. Body recovered. Tragic accident. But that wasn't the truth, not even close, because 3 days later, she came back, and she drowned again. Her name was Lily Mercer. She lived 3 blocks from me when I was a kid. We weren't close, just neighbors. She was quiet, always walked alone, hair always wet, like she'd just stepped out of a storm no one else noticed. After her first death, there was a memorial, photos, candles, a pink ribbon tied to the gate of Hollow Pine Lake. Everyone mourned until the 3rd night. That's when people saw her, standing at the water's edge, hair dripping, dress clinging to her skin, eyes wide and glassy, just staring at the lake. Someone called her name. She turned, smiled, then walked into the water, without hesitation, without struggle, and vanished beneath the surface. Divers were sent in again, and they found her. Same girl, same dress, same age, but her skin was different, paler, thinner, and her lungs empty, not filled with water, just air, like she'd never drowned at all. The coroner was baffled. No bruises, no trauma, no explanation, but the town buried her. Again, this time with a locked casket, heavy, sealed tight. But 3 days later, she returned. That summer was strange. The lake was closed, but people still heard her. In the early morning hours, before the sun had fully risen, she'd be there, walking the edge, sometimes humming, sometimes whispering to the water. One morning, a boy my age claimed she spoke to him. He said she smiled and asked if he wanted to swim. He didn't go near the lake after that. Not once, not ever. 2 years later, he disappeared. His shoes were found by the shore. No note, no struggle, just a quiet exit. I moved away when I was 17, tried to forget the lake, the girl, the whispers that filled the foggy mornings. But the story followed me, because 3 towns over, in a place she'd never been, Lily was seen again. Same dress, same dripping hair, staring into a man-made pond outside a retirement home. 2 days later, a patient went missing, found face down in the water, no signs of a fall, and a little girl said she saw someone pulling him down. When shown a photo, she pointed at Lily, smiled, said, "That's her. That's the lake girl." No one believed it. No one wanted to. But more sightings followed, always near water, always just before dawn, and always 3 days apart. That's the pattern. She returns every third night, stares into the water, and someone drowns. But it's not the same kind of drowning. There's no struggle, no panic, just stillness, surrender, like they wanted to follow her, like they chose it. 2 months ago, I returned to Hollow Pine. For the first time in over a decade, I needed answers, closure. The lake was smaller than I remembered, still gray. The pink ribbon had faded, but someone had tied a new one, fresh, tight. I stood at the edge and waited. The sky dimmed, fog curled in from the trees, and there she stepped out, not from the woods, but from the water, one slow step at a time. Her skin pale, eyes blank. She stopped 5 feet from me, didn't speak, just stared. Then she raised her hand and pointed at the lake. Behind her, bubbles rose, dozens of them, like something large was breathing beneath the surface. I backed away slowly. She didn't follow. She never does. Not yet. The next day, the local paper reported a drowning, a hiker found floating near the shore. Same story. No wounds, no reason, just water, where breath used to be. I left Hollow Pine again. But she didn't stay there. She never does. Last night, I passed a small pond on the edge of town. New place, new city, but the air smelled like lake water, and a girl in a soaked white dress was standing at the edge, watching her reflection ripple, and when she turned, she smiled. 3 days, always 3 days. Then she returns. If you ever see her, wet hair, soaked clothes, standing at the edge of water when there's no rain, don't follow, don't speak, and whatever you do, don't meet her eyes, because if she chooses you, you won't scream, you won't fight, you'll simply walk into the deep and disappear again and again and again.